Hello everyone! Welcome to the next chapter of the turbulent love story between James and Diep, where love is constantly tested by schemes, prejudice, and painful pasts. In the previous episode, after a long period of struggling with illness and loneliness, Diep finally returned to her familiar home. The morning sunlight streamed through the window, carrying with it new hope for a girl who had endured so much loss. But that peace didn't last long. Elsewhere, Tianj, the man who had silently stood behind Diep for so long, was no longer hiding his feelings. He appeared with determined eyes, facing James directly and declaring, "I will win Diep back, even if it costs me everything I have." No longer an outsider, Tianji had now become a formidable rival in the battle for love. Meanwhile, James, after focusing all his energy on resolving the company's internal crisis, had captured John, the man who once betrayed and embezzled from the company. He handed John over to the law, thinking he had finally eliminated all threats and could now fully care for Diep. But then, just as the two were beginning to walk hand in hand toward a shared future, the past came crashing in like a fierce storm. Long-buried secrets about Diep's failed marriage were suddenly unearthed. Some people deliberately fabricated and spread damaging rumors, stirring public opinion, and worst of all, those words reached James's mother. She, a woman who once admired Diep for her kindness and grace, now could no longer hide her disappointment and anger. In a private conversation with James, she tearfully said, "Do you realize you're dragging our entire family into scandal? I cannot accept a girl with such a past as a daughter-in-law." Even though she knew clearly that James deeply loved Diep, his mother, a sharp-witted woman who placed the family's honor above all else, still couldn't accept the idea of her son marrying a girl with a scandalous past. She didn't deny that Diep was a good person, but in her mind, a woman's past was like a shattered mirror. Even if pieced back together, the cracks would always remain. During a tense conversation between mother and son, she spoke through tears. "You are the sole heir of this family. Your name, your career, your future, they cannot be risked on a marriage like this. I beg you, please reconsider." James remained silent for a long time. In his eyes was a heartbreaking inner struggle. He didn't want to disobey his mother, but he also couldn't betray the woman who had stood by him through countless storms. After a quiet pause, he looked up and softly said, "I know you're worried for me, but I believe Diep is not the person those rumors say she is. If you can't trust me, then please, give her a chance, meet her, and hear it from her own lips." His mother was momentarily stunned. She knew her son was strong-willed, but also thoughtful. His words stirred something in her. After a moment of contemplation, she sighed and finally nodded. "Fine, I'll meet her. But I won't promise to change my mind." James was quietly relieved. He immediately called Diep and invited her to dinner at his house. His voice was gentle but filled with concern. "Diep, can you come to my house tomorrow? My mom wants to meet you. I know it'll be stressful, but I'll be by your side. Just be yourself." Diep froze. Her heart raced wildly. She knew this dinner wouldn't just be a simple visit, it would be a true test, one that could decide the fate of her love with James. But after a brief silence, she whispered, "I'll come." Diep had no idea of the storms waiting ahead. When she accepted the dinner invitation to James's house, she simply thought his mother wanted to bring up the matter of hospital fees. Not wanting to be indebted, she quietly gathered her modest savings and a few bundles of fresh vegetables she had grown, bringing them as a gift. Upon arrival, Diep politely greeted everyone, then gently placed the vegetables on the table and handed over the envelope. I brought some clean vegetables and a little money to repay the hospital expenses. I know it's not much, but it comes from the heart. James's mother was taken aback. Contrary to her worries, Diep appeared simple, honest, neither pretending nor trying to justify herself. She asked, "Did you grow these yourself?" "Yes, the land's small, but with care it's enough to eat," Diep replied with a gentle smile. In that moment, something softened in the woman's heart. A girl like this perhaps didn't deserve to be judged by rumors alone. Dinner passed peacefully. Though James's mother remained cautious, her gaze had lost its harshness, replaced by quiet observation and a hint of silent admiration. The dinner unfolded in a strange atmosphere, both warm and cautious. James tried to keep the mood light, while Diep remained gentle, polite, and attentive to every little detail. James's mother, though quiet, had softened in her gaze, occasionally glancing at Diep as if trying to see into her soul. After the meal, James's mother invited Diep into a private room. In the stillness, she got straight to the point. "I've looked into your past. Married at 16, thrown out of the house, accused of stealing land papers, childless. Tell me, are these things true?" Diep stayed silent for a moment, then softly began to explain. She had been sold into marriage at just 16, treated like a servant in her husband's home. Her ex-husband was an addict, a gambler, and unfaithful, and when his mistress became pregnant, he threw Diep out without mercy. The land deed theft? It was the mistress's doing. The police had cleared Diep's name. As for being childless, the truth was her husband had been infertile, but she had never been vindicated. James's mother was stunned into silence. The woman before her was no longer someone with a disgraceful past, but a survivor who had endured cruelty and still kept her kindness. "Why didn't you ever say anything?" she asked, voice trembling. Diep smiled softly and replied, "Because I want to live in the present, not be trapped in the past." Overcome with emotion, James's mother stepped forward and embraced her, tears rolling down her cheeks. "From now on, you won't suffer anymore. I will love and protect you as your real mother should have." For the first time in years, Diep was called daughter, not a castaway, but someone finally loved wholeheartedly. After the emotional private conversation, James's mother stepped out of the room with a completely different look in her eyes, no longer cold, but softened, reflective. She said nothing at first, only gently asked James to take Diep home early so she could rest. The next morning, as James was getting ready for work, his mother unexpectedly called him back. The two sat across from each other in the living room. Without beating around the bush, she looked at her son with deep, steady eyes and said, "Go ahead and prepare for the wedding. I understand now and I give my blessing." James froze. His heart felt like it was about to burst. He rushed forward, hugging his mother tightly, his voice choked with emotion. "Thank you, Mom. Thank you for understanding Diep and for understanding me." She gently patted his back and softly replied, "As long as you're happy, then I'm happy too." In that moment, all barriers seemed to melt away. Their love was no longer merely accepted, but embraced and protected by a mother who had once doubted and now opened her heart completely. That evening, James and Diep shared a peaceful moment together. He gently held her hand and promised to arrange the wedding as soon as possible so he could bring her home not just as his beloved, but as his wife, the woman who truly deserved a complete and loving family. But elsewhere, Tianj had begun to take action. He secretly arranged for John, the man who had once been imprisoned because of James, to be released, convincing him to join forces in a scheme to bring James down and win Diep back at any cost. Will James and Diep's wedding go smoothly? Or will the dark plans of Team G and John ruin everything? Stay tuned for the next episode to uncover all the shocking twists. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the latest update.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người. Mọi người ơi, cảm ơn mọi người rất là nhiều vì mọi người đã dành thời gian để xem hết video này. Và nếu như mọi người muốn biết thêm diễn biến của câu chuyện và sắp tới câu chuyện sẽ như thế nào thì mọi người nhớ đăng ký kênh, sau đó bật chuông thông báo lên để khi kênh của mình ra video mới nhất thì mọi người có thể kịp thời xem để hiểu hơn nha. Và nếu như mọi người thấy video của mình hay và ý nghĩa thì mọi người hãy ủng hộ kênh bằng cách hãy bật chuông thông báo lên để những video sau mọi người sẽ xem. Và mọi người cũng hãy chia sẻ video hay này để cho những người bạn thân thiết của mình để mọi người cũng cùng được nghe những câu chuyện hay như thế này nha. Và mình xin chúc mọi người một ngày mới thật vui vẻ và hạnh phúc. Và một lần nữa cảm ơn mọi người rất là nhiều vì mọi người đã theo dõi video nha. Và bây giờ thì mình xin phép chào tạm biệt mọi người và hẹn gặp lại mọi người ở video sau. Và câu chuyện của James cũng như Diệp, John và Tùng sẽ còn rất là nhiều diễn biến. Mọi người nhớ đón chờ nha.